Hello, and welcome to Book Reviews Kill, a podcast about fantasy, sci-fi, and horror novels. I'm Evan.
And I'm Chad.
And you're joining us today for our recap and discussion of Ruin, Book 3 in The Faithful and the Fallen by John Gwynn.
Oof.
Yeah, this is a whole lot of book there.
This is a whole lot of book.
All right, we are much more than halfway through this series, and I gotta say, my feelings are mixed. They're right in the middle of mixed. I mean, on the one hand, I think there are some really exciting scenes in this book, some decent setup and payoff. The storyline is still pretty interesting. Like, kind of right when I think it's getting a little stale, something pretty cool happens, and then we're kind of back into like little territory that I'm not really having a ton of fun with. Well, fun's not the right word, actually, because there are a lot of fun scenes. Yeah, I mean, it's still a little predictable. It's whatever. But like after 1,800 pages, I really wish I felt more of a connection to this world and to these characters. That's the thing that's like really kind of bumming me out about this. Is like there's a lot here that I like, but I'm still just having kind of a hard time really caring about what's going on. Like I feel like, and I think we've talked about this multiple times, but it's just I feel like I haven't spent enough time or had enough moments with these characters that really hit me where I live. I feel like I'm just kind of observing a bunch of stuff happening. I feel very distant from the characters. For the last nearly 2 books, it's just people running around and getting attacked. Like I know that's really, I'm reducing it down a lot, but like it really is what it feels like. I don't know what anything looks like except for like Drasil looked pretty cool.
Even then, I was the one reminding myself that was an awesome looking treehouse. Like not like, I don't know. I totally agree with what you're saying. There's so many different interweaving yarns to this sweater of a story that it's like every one of them is really interesting, really cool. And when kind of isolated on its own is pretty cool, pretty well written even. Yeah. It's just, there's so many that it's like work to figure it all out and unravel what's happening and who's who. Like there were character chapters, POV chapters in the last 5 chapters of this book during the culmination of events that I was like, who's this guy again?
Yeah.
Like I literally don't know whose eyes I'm looking out of right now.
Well, and it's interesting too, because with stuff like Malazan Book of the Fallen, it's twice as complicated as all of this. But the thing is like, I like being in that world more. So it's like, if something's going to be this complicated and this like just overwhelming sometimes, and I'm not feeling immersed or connected to characters, like that's an issue, you know, like that's where I'm starting to have problems, like feeling motivated to keep reading this. I mean, we're going to finish the series obviously, but I am definitely, I think I used the word underwhelmed on the last like Monday episode, but I don't think that's the right word, because I am pretty engaged with some of, I mean, especially towards the end of this book in particular, there's some pretty crazy stuff happening. Like there were some payoffs, you know, but it took way too long to get there in my opinion, and I'm getting kind of sick, and maybe the 4th book it won't be quite like this, but like I said before, I feel like it's been 2 books of like people just running and camping and getting set upon by horses. It's like, how many chapters end with just, oh, then they heard the sound of horse hooves, and then the chapter ends, and then there's like 9 other people that we got to go through, and so by the time I'm done reading those 9 other people, I don't even care about the horses now. Like I don't even care that like they're being attacked, because also they're probably gonna be fine. You know what I mean? Like everyone's gonna be fine except for
probably. I mean, he does kill some people.
Some people are not okay. Yeah, and I think if it wasn't for how cool the ending of this book was, very quickly, I would be a lot less motivated to read the 4th one. But now it's like, damn it, John Gwynne. Like, you know, we are doing spoilers at this part of the episode, but like, you know, Corbin getting taken away and Storm getting hurt. Like, I mean. That's okay. Well, now I got to find out what happened. Like, you know what I mean? Like, but there's a lot of chapters in here, like the Halen. I don't even remember the guy's name. Like
it's like HELUN or something. Yeah, like I
don't know what's going on. Then like we got like the Tuckle chapters and stuff.
Who is the Halen? Let's not move past that, because I'm actually legitimately confused as to him.
Let's talk about after the recap. We can get more into detail. And I know that it sounds like I'm kind of raking this over the coals. Like, I mean, I do think this is a cool series. We've read so much of it at this point. We're gonna finish it. But yeah, this is just. It's not as good as I thought it was going to be, you know, like I thought it was going to be something else. And I think that on one of the earlier episodes we had, I think my main issue with it is the tone. Like it's really lighthearted sometimes and like feels almost like YA almost. And then it's just everyone's slitting everyone's throats and everyone's tortured and dying and screaming. And it's just like, dude, like the amount of people that Corbin kills is, in my opinion, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Just dies, period.
It's just so many. It's just, there's so much death and murder and like killing and slaughtering in this book, and I'm not saying I have a problem with that in the narrative. I'm not saying that I'm not mature enough for it or anything like that. That's not what I'm saying. Don't get my words twisted. What I'm saying is it feels like it's just words. Like there's no weight to any of it. Like people aren't really thinking that much about it. It doesn't seem like a serious thing that all these people are dying. You know what I mean? Like that's why I'm having trouble connecting with some of it. Is it does feel a little frivolous. It feels like, you know, our main character that I'm supposed to be rooting for is just like running around slitting throats, you know? And it's just like, okay, like I feel like he should feel worse about it. Like, and I know that he feels bad about it for like a little bit in like the book before this. And it's like, I feel like it was Gwynn kind of like covering his tracks and being like, no, I mean, he's a human, you know, but like Corbin doesn't really feel like a human right now to me. Like he doesn't feel like a character I really want to root for. And that's what I mean about the distance is like, because I feel like I don't really want to root for him. I also feel pretty distant to everything that's going on around him too.
Totally. I don't think about these books when I'm not reading them. Like I'm not like, oh man, I wonder what's happening with Corbin, because I haven't spent enough. Like I would if this book was just about Corbin. I really do think that I would, because it's actually really cool what's happening to him. But there's just so much. It's like exhausting to try to figure out what's going on. Maybe I'm just like not smart enough for these books, but
no, I think you are. I think that
like it's like actual work to try to understand what's going on sometimes, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think you're stupid. I don't think anyone that has difficulty with these is stupid. I don't think they're particularly difficult. Like I get it.
No, each storyline is easy and rather predictable, in fact.
I think it's the presentation. Like that's my opinion on it. I think that like some of the conversations are kind of dry and don't really they're kind of meandering sometimes, and like the plot is meandering. Like they're just going from one place to another and getting like they're like literally meandering. I mean, like they are kind of like vaguely headed in a certain direction, but you know, it just feels a little repetitive. It's like we got this place we want to go, but before we go there, we have to sit around and we have to talk for a little bit. But like, oh no, we're getting attacked, and then we kill a bunch of people, and then we move a little bit more towards the destination we're trying to go to. We sit around, we talk a little bit, and then, we're getting attacked.
Couple sworn oaths.
Yeah, and then you know, the chapter ends and Corbin's just like, I have a pretty good idea of how we're going to solve that issue. And then it's like, that's cool, but
people
then
escape via tunnels.
But then we got to read about Mackin, and then we got to read about Tukul, and then we got to read about Uthas, and then Ufalis, and then we got to read about Veridus, and then we got to read about Halen, and we got to read about Fidelay, we got to read about Mac, and it's just like, it's like, okay, you had me for a second. That was a cool end of a chapter. Where are we now? Oh, and then you know, it's not fun to get back into a chapter after reading a bunch of other storylines for a second and then be like, okay, what's going on here again? Like even in the same reading session, you know what I mean? I'm not coming back to it days later.
No,
we're going to get into a more kind of like lively discussion about specific things that we both really liked and didn't like. But I don't want to like lie to our audience and be like, I really love this, because like I don't really love this, and it is personal taste, obviously. Like if you're listening along and this is like one of your favorite series, I think that's super, super valid, because there's a lot to love here. But I think it's rubbing up against my own personal taste in a very abrasive way. And I'm sorry for two things. One, I'm excited to be done with this because it's feeling a bit tedious at this point. Also, I don't know if you're going to believe me out, my listeners out there. I don't know if you're going to believe me, but I am really excited to read the Bloodsworn books, because I've heard that John Gwynne, after writing not just this series, but the other series that takes place in the Banished Land, I'm pretty sure it's the same world. I've heard that he steps up his game tenfold with the Bloodsworn series. So I'm waiting for that third book to come out. And I'm not swearing off John Gwynne. I'm not anything.
No, if anything, I'm rather encouraged, because I love all of the individual elements of this. Again, like it's all good stuff. I mean, some of it's all really basic. This is a lot like the Live, Laugh, Love poster of how a fantasy novel, like an epic high fantasy, progresses. None of it I'm like, oh, what a twist. None of it really surprises me. I don't really think that this character work is like groundbreaking or anything. It's good. People are growing, things are happening. There's arcs, there's good guys, there's bad guys, there's inner turmoil, there's outer turmoil, all good stuff. But there's such a chaotic torrent of it that I'm just like drowning in too much. And so, as much as I may complain about some of the elements of this specific book and how it's presented to me, I am confident that with some growth of his own, I think John Gwynn can make a really good story. Like, he's got it in him, obviously. He's got 800 good stories in him. He just needs to give me one of them.
So many good stories.
So many, man. So many.
Let's hit the recap. Let's do the recap and we can talk more about other stuff.
Okay, let's do it. Last time I went way too long with the recap. This one, I truly tried to just recap it. So if you're like, wow, he missed over some stuff, I get it.
Cool, let's do it.
The book starts with Jael the Betrayer, now king of Isildur, still loyal to Nether as he knows his new position will be short-lived without the support of both Rin and Nether. Acting on the orders of Nether, Jael offers a gift of weapons forged by the giants of old, back when they ruled the land and their strength was feared, to the leader of the giant clan Jotun, rumored to be the largest and most powerful of the giant clans. An important ally for their cause. These giants are bear riders, their very name bringing fear into the hearts of men and women at the thought of withstanding a giant bear charge. Jael promises an alliance, many more gifts to come, and ongoing trade between their peoples should the giants join their cause and help him hunt down Corbin. The leader of the giant clan of Jotun agrees, and the Deck of Evil gains another powerful card to play in this deadly game. Fresh from his semi-victory at the giant keep of Murius, Corbin and his crew are barely keeping ahead of a dogged pursuit from Calidus's Kadashim. Though the plan to rescue his sister Cohen was successful, and she is happy to be reunited and freed from Nether and Calidus, their group is no longer a small band of refugees, as they have been joined by some Jehar, the ones not possessed by the Kadashim, and those led by Tukul from the glorified tree fort of Drasil. He has also been joined by the remnants of the giants at Murius. Corbin has now been fully thrust into the position of leader of the goodly forces, his own crew and his new allies all looking to him for instruction on how to defeat the coming evil tide. As he struggles to fill the giant shoes of prophecy, gods, and destiny, Michael is pressuring him to be a decisive leader, but also has opinions on how he should lead and the specific course Corbin should plot for their band. Corbin is told to be decisive, but it seems only when his plans align with Michael's. Corbin initially wants to go and find Idana, wanting to protect his queen and feeling her loss as they developed a deep bond during their mad dash to safety in Valor, the last book. He is convinced by Michael, however, to realign his priorities after Michael lays out the importance of finding and collecting as many of the Starstone treasures, knowing they will need them all to destroy them all. Michael reveals that should Calidus collect all of the Starstone treasures, he will be able to open a gate to the spirit world and not only bring forth the entire dark force of Azeroth's Kadashim, but he will also be able to bring forth Azeroth himself, whom they will be certain to lose against. Corbin finally agrees to head to Drasil, and asks the giants that escaped Murius to accompany him. The giants agree. Cohen, though returned to her brother and friends, is feeling the time lost and sees how close everyone has become in her absence. Also seeing how her brother is needed by so many and is now busy in his role as leader. Brenna sees this and offers Cohen the position of her apprentice. She agrees and Brenna begins instructing her in the healing arts. Meanwhile, Makin and Fidelay are on the run, going from one almost getting caught moment to the next. Fidelay stops to help one of her people, refusing to leave him to die as Vin Thalin, who have been tracking them, rapidly approach. Makin leaves in frustration, but only makes it a short ways before going back and defending Fidelay and the wounded soldier. They win the battle, and Fidelay learns a bit of the fine character in Makin, coming to see him as more than just a savage pit-fighting killer. During their travels, they learn of a giantess and a giant child that Lycos has been hiding, later learning that it is Alcyon's wife. Nether and Calidus have a confrontation, during which Calidus, knowing that Nether now knows the truth, manages to bring Nether back under his wing, playing word games and twisting the names, making promises to Nether that only the names have changed, the plan is the same, and the land will still be Nether's to rule upon victory, as Azeroth only wants to come to this realm, not to rule but to defeat his enemies. Then he will give everything to Nether. Nether warily goes along with it, proving once and for all that his goal is not morality and what is best for all, but rather bettering his own self-interests and gaining power. Calidus runs into a dying Lycos in the spirit realm. He asks Lycos if he wants to live, telling him that he needs him. Lycos does want to live, and Calidus hands him an apple, each bite flooding his mind with memories. Lycos then awakens on a ship being taken care of by the woman that he was enamored with before Phidilae, and is introduced to his son. Now leader of a 300-person and giant battle group, Corbin is intercepted by Veratus, who is excited to overwhelm the small group with his vast army, but they are tricked by the classic "Hey Soldier" ploy, and realize with horror that not only has the battle group slipped past them and stolen their boats, they have also set most of the remaining boats on fire, leaving Veratus and Rin's forces severely crippled in their ability to mobilize and pursue Corbin and his group. Veratus learns of Calidus's lies and that Nether is actually the Black Sun, and does not take it as easily as Nether. He attempts to kill Calidus, and appears to be successful after slamming a dagger into his gut and kicking him into a fire. Calidus, however, no mortal man, comes back out of the fire and instructs Alcyone to subdue Verdus. Alcyone, however, knowing that Veratus helped his wife get free earlier, joins Verdus, and together they escape from Calidus. After much fighting and running, the book culminates with 2 fights. One with Idana, Camlin, and Penathrin, their forces having met up and joined with other rebels in a swamp. They are pursued by Rin and Evnis. They fight, with the battle raging both ways, but the strategic surprise attack by the forces of Idana rout Evnis and his troops. During the melee and the escape, Evnis has a confrontation with his son, Vaughn, who tells his father that he thinks his mother's old pendant is one of these 7 treasures. And when Evnis asks his son to join him, Vaughn stands resolute in his decision to fight for good, and tells Evnis that he cannot join him. They are about to go their separate ways when an arrow sprouts from Evnis's chest. Evnis's tale ends with his body falling to the swampy ground, a tunnel of darkness closing in, and a deep, terrifying voice calling to him through the ever-growing darkness. He recalls a night long ago, when he had sworn an oath in a forest glade, Azeroth. Corbin and his troop, now safely behind the walls of the legendary giant-made tree fortress of Drasil, face off against their attackers. After an epic champion one-on-one fight, where Corbin emerges victorious and then manages to escape from the once again dishonorable, betraying Jael, who, though agreeing to surrender should Corbin win, then tries to run Corbin down on horseback. They fight, with Corbin's forces routing their attackers and emerging victorious. After the victory, Corbin has a dream, and upon waking confronts Michael, whom he saw in the dream. Michael then reveals to him that he actually made up the whole prophecy, and it was all to bait Azeroth into fighting the humans, so Elyon would return to the Ben Elim once again, knowing that Elyon has great love for the humans, and would come back to protect them. Everything Corbin has been told about him being Elyon's chosen champion and his destiny that mere moments before was the glue holding his entire army together, the reason they all follow him, is now a lie. Corbin storms off in a rage, and needing some air, leaves Drasil via some tunnels so he can think. While he is out clearing his mind, Drasil is attacked by Calidus and his Kadashim forces. Michael is taken by Calidus and dies, not well, by Legion, the unholy Jahar filled with many Kadashim demons. During his stroll, Corbin is jumped by the leader of the Jotun, the giants that Jael allied with in the beginning of the book, and tasked with capturing Corbin. He is taken captive, and Storm, who was with him at the time, was mortally wounded. Nothing is more sad than hearing her wounded yelps fade into the distance as he is taken away, except, of course, when the yelps stop and he hears only silence. And this is how Book 3, Ruin, ends.
Thank you, teacher. Thank you, class, for listening to my report. No,
yeah, I seriously had to put together a report for that, and I'm sure anyone who knows this story is like, oh my gosh, he skipped over so much.
We're gonna do it in every episode, y'all.
Yeah, there's like whole arcs in there that I just didn't even want to get into because I just have a terrible ability to summarize, and I always just want to make it fun to read and exciting, so it's rough when I try to just summarize.
I mean, if we went over like every plot point of this, we'd be here for like 2 hours. Seriously, I'm really not exaggerating. It would be 20,000 words of just going through everything. So let's hit the high points. Let's hit kind of like our thoughts here. So one of my big I'm gonna go right out of the gate with kind of a complaint. What the hell was Corbin doing? Just getting some air in like a besieged, like...
Yeah, well, he thinks that he just won, I guess. because they
I
like routed
guess.
JL earlier, right? And he's like, "Oh, I'm so upset."
But they didn't all like leave. They're not all
No,
gone. Like they didn't leave the country or anything. Like it's not like they all like flew away.
I mean they did like mess up the attacking forces earlier, but I don't think
I
that he knew
guess,
that
yeah.
Calidus and his Kadashim were so close.
It just seems weird. It's like I need to go get some air. Like I'm the leader of this entire operation. So I'm just gonna like go alone out here. Like, and that
Yeah,
seems silly.
I'll
to
bring my
me.
wolf.
Like that just felt kind of contrived. And like one thing to Gwynn's credit, I mean, like not a ton of this is like that contrived. I mean, like a lot of stuff is pretty cool sequence of events and like consequences and stuff. But like with that is, I was just like, ah, come on, man. Like he's gotta go outside. Like, how do I get him outside? Maybe he
There's a
needs some
few
air.
parts during this book that you're just like, what? Like, I forget whom, but there's a character that finds like a wooden box in a bog. He's like walking through a bog and he's like, oh, wow, a man could get stuck in this and like sinks into it. Then he finds something like hard with his foot and he like pulls it up and then he like carries it around with him. I think it's Wraith or Rafe, one of the two.
Or
And
Braith or Breath.
yeah, one of them. And he like carries this box with him randomly, like not able to open it for a long time. Then like his at the very end, not of the book, but right before at the end of his storyline, he like throws it on the ground. He's just like mad one day. And he breaks it open and he discovers like a plain cup inside of it and thinking to himself, well, I might as well enjoy some wine out of
Let's
this
have
cup.
myself a cup of wine while we're
So,
at it.
yeah, he pours himself a cup, and even though it's like super heavy and like thrumming or something, he like drinks from it, and then he passes out. Basically, he like experiences one of those moments like they did in The Expanse, where you like see between the molecules of space time, and then he goes unconscious, and that's where he blacks out. But of course, he's going to rise in the next book as like some dark lord or something, I'm sure. Which honestly, I'm pretty excited for because I don't know. The bad guys in this book are like Nether, so interesting, and then just kind of boring and like what a pushover. Like, what did you think of him being like, I'm actually the Black Sun? Okay, fine.
Yeah, I was actually that was one of my first questions for you too, because I think it's a pretty big part of this book and one that we had been talking about. We wanted to get to this point, right? In the last couple episodes that we did.
Yeah, excited to.
So I don't know. At first I was kind of like, man, what a pushover. Like, wow. Like, but I don't know. I think that the conversation with him and Calidus, like Calidus kind of like, I guess the word I would use would be like relativizing stuff. Like he kind of just like, Calidus has a silver tongue and he's kind of just does. He's just like, look, man, like here's everything from my perspective and like exactly why none of this is like, it's not a big deal that we're all demons. Like it's really like yes,
it's
we
like,
all
like what is a demon after all?
Exactly, yeah.
And he basically like redefines a bunch of words and he's like, it's really the same thing. You're just fighting for evil now.
So at first I was kind of like, damn, Nether, like that is pretty weak. Like that it took like 1.5 conversations and you like feeling weird about it for a little bit, but then also I kind of like thought about Nether's character over the last few books, and it kind of, I think Gwynn set Nether up pretty well for this, for going over to the other side. Like, we're not the other side, I guess he was already on the side, but acquiescing to Calidus and all of this with full knowledge of what was going on. I think he set it up pretty well because like Nether jumps into quite a bit, like like him meeting with the Vinthalin in the first book, like even though his dad was just like, dude, stop talking to these people,
right? Please don't do this one thing, and then he does that one thing.
It sucks that we don't have Nether chapters because I think he's easily one of the most interesting characters in the entire series. It's not that he wants glory or attention or just to win. I think Nether actually does want a unified banished lands, but he wants to be at the head of it. And that's what he's wanted this whole time. And so so Calidus,
like all attention and power.
Well, so Calidus like rationalizing as much as he did, I think it got him to a point. But then I think the real clincher was when Calidus was like, "Oh, and by the way, you can totally be the leader of everything. Once, like, all we need is for literal Satan to come back for a little bit because he just wants to touch base. You know what I mean?
He needs
like,
to get here and defeat his enemies, then he's out.
Like Satan. I'm just gonna say Satan, but like."
Yeah,
like Satan wants to come, check everything out, check the lay of the land, and then we'll just put you on the throne, and he'll go back to Satan land. You know what I mean?
You can be as good as you want to be.
Yeah, totally. Oh my god,
you can just be so good, dude. You can be so good, like evil good. Great.
Like I said though, like reading it initially was a little bit jarring because I was just like, damn, Nether. But then thinking more about the character, I think it was pretty well done, actually. That's my opinion on it.
I don't disagree with you fully. I do think that it was certainly along that path. Let's keep in mind that like Nether was in on the like killing of his father in order to like gain for personal gain. So he could, he justified it in his mind. He sleeps at night because he thinks that he had to do that so he could rise to be this emperor position. That would be the only way that he would act as the Serendisc layer and defeat the forces of evil, the coming tide. And then when he learns that he is the coming evil tide, he's kind of gone too far and he's kind of moping around for a little bit. And then Calidus comes to him, and one of his first things that he says to Calidus is like, you're not going to kill me. And Calidus is like, no, I need your men. Like, I can't just kill you. Like, you're smart. And Nether, I don't think is actually that smart. I think he was legitimately worried.
I don't think Nether is that smart either.
No, he's really not. But then he gets totally tricked.
A useful idiot.
Yeah, he's a very useful idiot.
Yeah.
And he's just like, it's so funny because we have this whole spiel from Calidus being like, yeah, it's just like names are just words. They don't mean anything. You will have everything that you intended. You can be as good as you want. Azeroth's going to come in. He's going to kill Elion and the Ben Elim, who are just like, it's not even angels and demons. Just think of them as like two creatures that aren't humans. And then you can rule. All is good, all is the same. And then like 3 pages later, the Kadashim, they get to this village that earlier Corbin like got through all like peacefully and everything. They get to the same village, and the Kadashim are enjoying their newly found bodies, of course, and reveling in the taste of human flesh. And they're literally eating children in the background. And there's like, yeah, I suppose it doesn't really matter if only the name of my god changes. And the Kadashim are like eating children in the background. You're like, yeah, okay, Nether. And Calidus is like right next to him when someone's like, Nether's like, the world will never allow this sort of behavior. And Calidus is like, oh yeah, they're like playful children with it. And he says with a wistful smile, like recalling fondly the taste of flesh when he first got his body. It's like, oh my gosh, Nether, you truly have gone wrong. What did you think about Veratus's arc, about how he comes back, then he gets sent off on a little mission to go defeat the uprising that is being led by his father? What did you think of that?
I have kind of the similar feelings about Veratus as I do with Nether. I think Veratus is pretty interesting, and I also think Gwynn did a pretty good job setting Veratus up for a believable reaction to the news that Nether gives him. I thought it was pretty well executed. That being said, I do think that Veratus was a little thick for like a while. Like, it's like, I get it, because Veratus's like relationship with his brothers and stuff and his dad, and it was like the way that Veratus and Nether kind of like hooked up was like fireworks, you know what I mean? Like you got to think about like how big of a deal it was for Nether to turn around and like cut his hand and be like, you're my guy, you know what I mean? It was so important to Veratus.
Blood brothers.
So like, I think personally I would have liked to have seen in the Veratus chapters a little bit more kind of like inner turmoil and a little bit less of kind of like, well, Nether knows best. Like I think the things that were happening, it kind of made me feel like, man, Veratus, like I know that you've got rose-colored glasses on right now, but like you are a capable like leader of armies. Like you should like someone that's this tactful on a battlefield and this logistical and stuff like shouldn't be this thick with this, but I do think it's cool.
Like deceit is a big part of warfare.
Right, exactly. It's huge, and I think that it was silly. It just kind of, as a reader, I was kind of like, come on, man, like really. But then I think his reaction made a lot of sense. It worked when Nether talked to him. But yeah, what are your thoughts? Well, you asked me about his dad. Sorry, I want to interrupt that. You asked me about his dad and the rebellion and stuff.
Yeah. Like, what do you think of like him being sent off to even do that?
I mean, I think that like that was like a gigantic red flag. That should have been at least like his. Correct me if I'm wrong. Correct me if I'm reading this incorrectly. But what's his name? Like Veratus's dad, Lamar, or is that where they're from, or wherever?
I think it is like an L, but I forget the name of his dad.
So like Veratus's dad seemed very like confrontational toward Tenebral in general.
Lamar, nice memory, dude.
Oh wow, I got that right. Wow,
you did. Yeah.
So like he didn't seem on board with a whole lot. He seemed kind of like almost like isolationist, I could be wrong about how I was reading that, but it seemed weird for him to like stage a rebellion.
I mean, it just seemed weird that it was him specifically who was leading the thing.
Yeah, like, did I miss something? Like, was there something else that had happened? Was it something to do with Ector? Like, I don't know. Like, it just seemed like it was kind of like popping off. Like, did Lamar like really like Fidelay or something, and like really dislike Lycos? Or I don't really know. It just seemed weird. Like, it's just, I don't know. Maybe I missed something.
Lamar is one of the like noblemen of that.
Yeah,
so if there's,
totally.
he's definitely a solid candidate for one of the people to rise up, and he knows like all the old guard before Nether took control. So like he's like a natural person to lead the rebellion. But there could be like there's probably like 10 other Lamars, noblemen who are like outplaced who could lead too. And I thought it a little rich that it just so happened to be his father that was leading the rebellion. Perhaps I'm missing a piece of something that makes it more logical that he is. But one thing that I thought was a little just kind of silly was Calidus's perhaps arrogance in being like, because they want Veratus to leave because they're like really trying to prevent him from learning that Nether is the dark sun. And so he like the black sun. Yeah, thank you. And he leads. So he's like, oh, let's just immediately welcome back. We need you to go take out your father. But like, look at his soul. Like, why do you want him to not find out? Because he's gonna not be okay with being like the forces of evil. Do you think he's also gonna be okay with like killing his dad? And he has a like weird conversation with Calidus. Calidus is like, but you will like do what's required of you, right? And Veratus is like, yeah, I will, but like I'm gonna make sure I know what's going on.
But I got like a line.
Yeah, like
it's like a limit, man.
Yeah, and then I don't know how excited I was about the whole him recapturing Makeen and Fidelay, and then like Lycos getting his like time again to like torture the hell out of poor Makeen. And then fortunately Fidelay was taken from him, so he wasn't able to have his way with her again, because man, like you were saying before we did the recap, this book has sometimes like a YA read to it. You're just kind of jotting along, and all of a sudden there's just like 2 people being tortured and some son watching his dad being eaten alive by a bear. Like that actually happened. And you're like, whoa. And it gets so like heavy.
Yeah, it does. It gets really heavy. Yeah. Somebody sexually assaulted and it's a lot.
It's a lot. Damn. It's a lot. Yeah.
Forgot about the bear thing.
First, what?
Forgot about the bear thing.
Yeah, dude, it was rough. I was like, oh my gosh. So I don't know. I think it was Calidus was being pretty like arrogant to send Veratus. And then they have this like weird like farce of a like trial when they bring him back, and that of course like falls to pieces with Nether just like playing the puppet of being like, well, mother, clearly you did not take
You're obviously insane.
Yeah, like you've gone crazy. The what do they call them, like the rumors or something, the humors. You have bad humors upon you, mother. And calls her crazy. And then Lycos is like, yeah, it's really weird. She sent all of her like personal guard and like sent them to the far reaches of the kingdom. Weird, even though it was like super him that did that. And all the people like Lamar, his father, and Ector and his brother Krellis is there. And they're like screaming the truth at him. And Radis is just kind of confused, and then finally demands of Nether, like, what is going on? And then Nether, of course, reveals to him. And I was finally excited with the depth of like morality that like Radis finally, we needed him to like, I'm glad that he didn't take time in deciding.
No, he rose to
just
the
like
occasion.
Nope.
Yeah.
He rose. He like immediately freed Fidelay. He like righted the wrongs because he got Fidelay and Makeen into this situation along with his brother and father.
But that's why I'm saying I wanted to give Gwynn credit, because like you for that to happen, the way that he had built Veratus up, you need to be able to back up with other events. Like, you know, you need to be able to justify Veratus's reaction, because like I think cleverly Gwynn showed the kind of like the dynamic between Veratus and his family and Veratus and Nether. They're very contrasted dynamics. So I think that like credit to Gwynn for setting all that up pretty well, and like Veratus doing the things that needed to happen in those. Like I would have been very frustrated if he was like, I don't know, like this Nether guy is pretty cool. Like
I know he got a new scar in his palm, but
it wouldn't have been believable at all.
No, not even a little. You're totally right. And then, I'm also glad that there's things that I really like about John Gwynn's storytelling style, which he doesn't make us wait for things that we shouldn't have to wait for, such as the romance developing between Fiddle and Makeen. We don't have like a whole book of them like flirting with each other.
No, it's like just kind of happening. Yeah.
Yeah, he just mans up right away. Love it.
Yeah.
We don't have a whole book of Veritas drowning in guilt over like being in the middle of a battle and then having his father ending up on his own sword and being like, I killed my dad, when really it was his son Ector who like pushed his father onto Veritas's blade.
Good timing, by the way. Like,
yeah, right. I know. He was like, a lot of things had to go right for that to happen. Crazy.
Hector's just like, ah.
Right. And that's one of those things that, like, Ector, like when he first came up, I had to literally go to my dramatis personae. I was like, who is this Ector person? Oh, it's his brother.
It's interesting because like Ector was like helping Fiddle figure some stuff out in the book before this.
Yeah. His deception goes deep. But I mean, he thinks he was just a slimy person. And, he comes out of nowhere with like daddy issues, right? Like dad always wanted like a soldier and I'm like a book guy. So I'm going to kill my dad and betray everything I love to the forces of evil. Okay, Ector.
Yeah.
So it's like that's bad John Gwynn, and then good John Gwynn, his brother Krellis, gets released by Veritas, and Veritas is like, no, and Krellis immediately kills the brother. Good John Gwynn, I will say one thing for John Gwynn. He really, really loves to have his soldiers just cutting the shit out of their hands to swear to people.
Oh yeah, that's a big deal.
Big deal.
It's not healthy. It's dangerous. You shouldn't do that.
No, not at all. I mean, like everyone is always about to fight, yet for some reason how we swear allegiance to fight for someone else is we cut our hand that is most likely going to be like needed very soon to like hold a weapon. Yeah, there's one scene where there's like 1,000 people who all swear allegiance to Corbin, and they use the same dirty sword that's stuck into the ground. Like if one of them had like a bloodborne disease, they now all have the bloodborne disease because they all cut themselves in the hand. And I don't know. I just thought it was a little like, okay, let's prick ourselves,
So we've talked about Nether, we talked about Veritas. Like, what do you think about the kind of arcs of some of the other main characters? Like, what do you think about? Let's talk about Corbin. Corbin's probably like, I guess you could call Corbin the main character of this ensemble cast.
Yeah.
I think we should talk about Corbin a little bit.
Okay, well, I'm glad you asked me because if I've heard a lot of things online of people being like his character work, and it's like if you mean by like throwing handfuls of characters at me, sure, his character work, but that's one of the bad John Gwynns in my opinion, because you get these characters like Veritas, like Corbin, who go from just like farm boy in one book to like leader in the next. Like Veritas was in the first book, he wasn't really presented to us as a strategic leader of men or as like a one-on-one combat extraordinaire, but by the middle of the second book he is master.
I think there was an attempt with like Veritas like looking at the ants in that one scene. I think that
he watches ants and becomes a legendary
I think
leader.
that was like the attempt at like, yeah, because I mean I'm with you there. I mean I think that's like a little silly, and then Corbin becoming like this like master swordsman, and it's interesting too because like with Michael saying basically, like I made everything up.
Let's get to that in a second.
We should, but what it has to do with like, that was what I was thinking a lot of the time when I was like seeing Corbin do all this like amazing stuff and just like,
Providence.
What?
It was Providence. Like that's why he was able to do it, because it was destined. I'm with you.
Right. That's what I thought. But then I find out that like none of that's even real. And it's like, okay, well, why is this kid like so amazing at like everything then? Like, I don't understand.
He did like the water dance every morning. He did some yoga tai chi.
Yeah, but like I don't know. He's like 17 or whatever. Like he's
literally 17. He started 17 at the beginning of this book.
Yeah. So like, I don't know. I just don't see it. Like, I just don't see. And also, I mean, like Corbin is not that interesting. Like he's not as interesting as Veritas or Nether or even Makeen.
Oh yeah, I like Makeen a lot actually.
Yeah, Makeen's pretty cool. I would say like Camlin is pretty interesting too actually. So like I would say like Camlin, Makeen, Veritas, and Nether are all pretty interesting to me. Corbin and Gwynne and Coraline and Gar are all like, Gar was cool for like the first book. Cool. And then all of a sudden he's just not anymore.
Yep.
Brenna is just there to give Gwynne something to do, I guess. Because we were just like, what are we supposed to do with Gwynne? She'll learn magic now, I guess.
Yeah. She'll be Brenna's apprentice and learn healing.
with Corbin, I mean, I feel like in my opinion, the only thing that was really that interesting about Corbin was his kind of like inability to commit to a decision for a couple books. But then he does, which I thought was cool. I think it's neat in this book that Corbin does commit, and he's like, all right, well, shit. Like, I guess, I'll do it. You know, we kind of limped there, but I think that was the point. But yeah, I mean, I see Corbin as like kind of like an Aragon type character, where it's just like,
totally.
It's like, yeah, he's a little conflicted, but like mostly he's just like, aha, like
that's there for it.
I don't know. Like, I don't really have that much to say about him.
No, I like his friends better, like Doth and Vaughn, you know, like, and I really like the relationship between Dath. Is it Dath? Yeah, it's Dath and Vaughn. And Camlin. Like, he's kind of like taking him under his wing and shows
pretty
him how
cool.
to be.
But then they get separated in this book anyway, so it doesn't matter. Wait, is Death with Camlin or Corbin? Wow, I can't even remember. Death is with
Death, I believe, he's with Camlin, because him and Camlin are doing.
Oh my god. Jeez.
They're doing like little like forest foyers, or is that Vaughn? I don't know. See, Dath and Vaughn in my mind are like the same person, kind of like Cohen and Corlin, which is weird. They're just like the same person. And again, unearned progress. Like, yes, okay, he spent some time in the forest with Camlin, but all of a sudden he becomes like an amazing scout, and he's like
sharpshooter.
He's like a sharpshooter arrow guy. We also have the same thing happening with Adana in book 2. She's like, man, I'm a queen now, thrust into this position, but I'm like really quiet, doesn't talk for like basically the entire escape north, and then all of a sudden is like the queen, like really filling her role, and it's like this badass leader person. I was like, I just don't see the transition. She just wasn't, and now she is that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, what?
Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of like what I was saying before, but like I feel like I'm just kind of like looking through these characters' eyes at like other things happening without getting like a whole lot of like how they really feel about stuff. Like and you know, it's not all the time, obviously. Like there are moments where people think about stuff and they talk about stuff with other people, but you know, these are like some pretty intense, like really big events. And I feel like with how hectic everything is and how the breakneck the pacing is and everything, we're not really getting like a whole lot of opportunities to like really sink our teeth into like what all this means and like why this might sound a little glib on my part, but like why does any of this like who are they protecting other than like themselves? Like where are like the cities that are just kind of like full of people? You know what I mean? Like, is it just, they're just like bouncing around from like castle to castle. And it's like, that's what I kind of mean about like the world building and like the immersion aspect of it, where I'm just kind of like, why is any of this even like important?
Well, it turns out it's not. Michael just made it all up.
Yeah, and
it's a bait to lure his god back from who knows where, Mope Land, because he allowed the 7-star treasures to like come about, I guess.
But see, what I'm wondering is like, how does Corbin even know that Elion is like a good god?
He doesn't.
Like, so because like some of them, like the Ben Elim have like feathery wings.
Feathers? Yeah, dude, I was just gonna say one has feather wings, the other has skin like bat ones.
I don't know, man. Like, it just seems kind of weird. It's like,
I mean, the Kadashim did eat children too.
Oh yeah, but Corbin didn't see that. Like, I'm talking about.
That's
like,
true. Yeah,
like,
he didn't.
Like, or did he? I can't.
No, he didn't see that. No.
But like, it seems odd that Corbin is just like, all right, I'm throwing my lot in, and like this is so important, and it's like, okay, but Michael could just like be lying, you know, like a book ago you didn't even believe you were this guy, right. You know, and all it took was like apparently you murdering a lot of people for you to change your mind, and like seeing your mom get killed, and it's like, oh well, like the Kadashim killed my mom, so obviously they're evil. But it's like the Ben Elim would kill, how many mothers have they killed? Like this, you know what I mean? Like it's
dude, and they kind of like set this whole thing up.
Yeah,
so
I mean,
like
Michael did, like, yeah.
Yeah, well, there's this important line right at the end of this confrontation scene, Michael revealing to Corbin that he just like made everything up, I think to lure Elion back because the humans are now like under duress, I guess. But Corbin's like, wait, what else is there? And then he has this weird cryptic line where he's like, I can't tell you anything else. I've made a promise to my kin. But he mentions the straw men that they tricked earlier, and he says, you are that, or this is that, or something. So like he's using humans. There's something bigger that he's trying to accomplish, and I'm not really sure.
I did think it was kind of interesting that there was a sort of like greater good conversation happening on on this side of like the Catachem and Calidus and Aether and stuff like that. And then also kind of towards the end of this book, that point gets brought back up with Michael and Corbin and stuff. It's like, that's kind of like one of the main, I mean, it's pretty on the nose, but like that is like one of the main things that this book is trying to communicate to us is like the greater good. Like, what's up with that? You know, like what, like, is it okay to kill 1,000 people so you can save 1,000,000? You know, like,
Right.
is that okay? And like Michael kind of like taking these drastic steps and not explaining anything to the person that is kind of at the heart of it, or at least that he put at the heart of it. It seems kind of like silly. And I don't know what the benefit of that actually would be. Like, what's the benefit to Michael of lying to Corbin about this? Like, why would that make Corbin more motivated to help?
That's why we don't know the answer to that question yet, because Corbin's trying to get it out of him, and he gives us like this weird kind of false answer to like get Elion back, but we don't even know why Elion's gone in the first place.
Or why can't Elion like if things are bad enough that Michael wants Elion to come back, then why doesn't Elion just notice and come back? Like, if he's the good god, like if he's the good one, wouldn't he? Is he just like that sad? You know what I mean? Like,
he's sad because he like allowed the Starstone treasures to come into existence, and that like started a bag. Yeah, but like. So he goes and mopes off and lets evil run everything.
Yeah, and that just seems kind of, unless, so this is what I'm thinking is maybe in the fourth book we realize that like something else is going on with Azeroth. Is that his name?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Sorry, there's so many names. Maybe something's going on where like Michael was wrong about something. You know what I mean? And like this was like what he felt like was his only option was to kind of like smoke screen this entire thing so he could at least get Elion's eyes back on this. But like, what was so bad about the world before? Was it did Michael know that Azeroth was like coming back or something? Like, I don't.
No, he manufactured. There was nothing bad. That's why he feels bad.
Because there was nothing bad.
He literally made up this whole thing just to like lure, and he said he needed to direct Azeroth's like evil fury somehow, and then
but if like that wasn't even happening, then like what's the problem here?
Like all of Azeroth's actions were because he made up this false prophecy. So everything that's happening is basically his fault, and we think that he's just like using the humans to bait Azeroth into doing something so he can like go around. He wants Azeroth distracted so he can do something in regards to bringing Elion back.
Man, that's what I was talking about kind of at the top of this episode, where it's just like, damn, Gwynn, man, like you I was bored for like 400 pages, and then you dangle this weird shit in front of me, and it's like, what am I supposed to do? Like, not find out why any of this is happening? Like, why is it? I want to know why it was meaningless, because it probably wasn't. But like, we got to save that for book 4. You got to save that for like 500 other little skirmishes and battles.
Dude, so many
battles. Like I like action. I know you like action. I know you like battles. But man, I like rolled my eyes a couple times where it was just like, and then the sound of hoofbeats, and then the crying of wolves, and then the thundering of giant footsteps, like and then just like they're just being set upon. And I know why. Like, I get it. Like, I'm not stupid. Like, I know what the situation is, but it's like the whole second book, it's Corbin and company running around, attacked. And then here's a twist. What if we split everyone up, and now they're in different parts of the Baddest Lands, but they're all running around getting attacked, until the very end, where they go to, it's just like with the second book, where it's like until the very end, where everybody kind of just meets at the same place, and then a bunch of crazy shit happens, and then it's over.
Yeah.
It's just like, dude, what are you doing?
We had a few little skirmishes, like we had the Battle of Graham's Hold, where Garth's father died, I believe. And we had some like minor ones, but we have Veratus being tricked, but they didn't even matter. People were just running around. Like, there's so, like you said, where are all the cities? What is being defended? They literally got to some legendary place to defend it.
Yeah, there was like one town full of people, and I get that. I mean, it is like the world isn't unbuilt because you're not seeing like a ton of civilians. Or I mean, like in Song of Ice and Fire, it's like it's the nobles, like that's who you're mostly. But at the same time, you got like Flea Bottom, you know what I mean? You got like a big like all of King's Landing and stuff, and then like there's a bunch of people living at there's like people living at Winterfell and stuff, and I mean it's a thing. Like people talk about it at least. But with this, it feels like I don't know what like the class system is here. I don't know like what the like how many people live in this country, like
how many rebels were there in the swamp?
Like what's at stake here? Is it just a bunch of castles and the people living in them? Like I don't really care.
Gwynn will take over everything, I guess.
I mean, like in Song of Ice and Fire, you've got like this kind of like ancient demonic force nobody believes in that's behind a 700-foot ice wall. It's like it's threatening to kill everybody below it.
And
it
almost did it once in the past.
And it's like that threat is from the first book, like it's corroborated. It's
viscerally real.
It's supported by one of the main characters like experiencing like seeing this stuff. With this, it's like, okay, so let's say Azeroth get like what then? Like what's the problem here? You know what I mean? Like what's I guess like the winged demon things like eat babies, that's really bad. But it's like are the winged demon things just gonna like eat all the babies? Like what's like I don't it's just bad. It's just gonna be bad.
Okay,
like,
so
instead of good.
I'm trying to figure this out here because there's like it's funny because Michael's like, Corbin, you need to be decisive. Everyone's looking for you to lead. And then Corbin's like, okay, fine. We're going to go meet up with Adana. And he's like, no, I need you to lead, but not that way. I need you to do it's like
not like that. Not like that.
When he like Corbin finally does what he asks, and he's like, nah, you need to do what I need you to do. And he's very concerned with getting all of the treasures back. And then when he has this like dream thing that Corbin sees, he overhears like some conversations where they're like, when can we come or something? And we know that all of these artifacts like together can open a portal that will like let in people from, I guess, the spirit realm. Can
I interrupt you really quick? Sorry. Sure. I want to say, I do think it was really funny. There was like this little moment where someone was like, well, we've got the cauldron. Like, can't we just like bring Azeroth in? And they're like, nah, we got to have all the stuff. And then some character's like, why is it like that?
Yeah.
I love like, that part. Like if John Gwynn was here with us right now, I'd be like, that was fucking hilarious. I love that because it was like when you were writing it, you knew that it was like pretty dumb.
Like, and Caldas had like just done that at the end of the last book with just two of them.
Moving on. I thought it was cool, and it was like a very this is like a really cool part of it.
Yeah, like someone wrote himself to a corner, was like, screw it.
I think that's called
right past it.
I believe I could be wrong. I think that's a writing technique called lamp shading, where you kind of like will use like a throwaway line or like a scene to kind of like cover I'm sorry, I could be wrong about this, but like when Neville Longbottom like knocks over all the time turners in the 5th book,
right,
like that's like lamp shading. It's like we just cut that and just nip that in the, but no one can talk about that. It's kind of, it's like breaking the fourth wall a little bit, where you're just kind of like, I know this is kind of silly, I'm just gonna like totally take care of this right now. But yeah, go on.
Interesting. What a cool little like literary element for like, it's almost cheating kind of. You're just like, it doesn't matter anymore. Something that was super important, it doesn't matter. It just is the way it is. Okay, so getting all of the Starstone treasures together will open up some portal, and we hear Corbin overhear Michael talking about something that clearly is like, when can I come through? And so maybe Michael's ultimate gain is to get all of them together, not so he can destroy them, but so he can bring the Ben Elim over and they can rule. Or maybe by doing that, he'll open a portal to wherever Elion is, and then they'll suck Elion in. And then he's like, yeah, you're back.
But like, that's my question, is in like, maybe I was just disinterested at this point and just wasn't reading the text closely enough. But like, what is the benefit of Michael's plan? Like why would the Banished Lands be in a better place if Azeroth was defeated?
Well, I mean, that's not even what he's trying to do, but why would the Ben Elim be better with Azeroth defeated?
Yeah. What benefit is that's what I'm like kind of failing to see. And I shared a lot of Corbin's kind of like annoyance, because throughout a lot of the book he was just like, dude, why is it me? Like, I don't understand. And I shared that with him. I was like, yeah, dude, like, why is it you? There's no real reason why it should be at all, other than like a prophecy that says storm and shield, which is like also, so like, help me out here. So the storm and shield part is part of the prophecy, correct?
Totally.
So Michael wrote that.
Super coinciding.
It can't be, man.
It is. Because it just says he will be like led by Storm and Shield. Like he could.
No, I don't.
There could be a Storm at one point in any Shield, and they would have just.
I'm sitting here on my podcast, refusing to believe that can't be real.
The way it is. Okay, so there is a line where Michael says, one sec, he says, blah blah blah. Well, you just made it all up, and he's like, that's true. Michael said, his brow furrowing, which gives me hope. And they're talking kind of like, well, you mentioned things that you could not know that like have actually come true.
Yeah.
And then he's like, well, it gives me hope. Perhaps Elion is stirring at last, is noticing, is becoming involved.
Oh, I remember what that line.
I do know is I wrote that with my own hand.
My fucking eyes glazed over when I read that.
Because he's like, well, maybe Elion was leading me in my deception, like, or something. I don't know. Maybe it's all real. Maybe it's not fake.
Dude, that's what I'm hoping happens in the fourth book. That's like, I think that it would be really cool if Michael had been wrong and there was some other kind of like thing at work here. Like maybe Elion actually is a lot more involved than everybody thinks. Because Azeroth has been, what if one of the characters we've had this entire time is Elion?
Dude, I've been thinking about that. I can't figure out who I think it would be. Camlin? No, it would be Camlin.
No, it's not Camlin. It would be a character that isn't a POV character.
Totally.
Like, we're going way into the realms of like conjecture here, but like
no, this is good stuff. But I mean, we have to deal with sentences like this. Azeroth hates Elion with a passion few could even imagine, but he also loves him in a deep hidden place. Like, what the hell does that even mean?
I mean, if you look at it from even like with Christian theology, and also if you want to dig into like Tolkien and the splitting of Eru into the Valor and stuff. Azeroth, if Elion is like the kind of like prime mover, like main one, like apex god.
Totally, the unbegan beginner.
Yeah, then Azeroth could be nothing but a part of Elion. Same thing with like Satan or Morgoth, where it's like there's always like that kind of connection. You know what I mean? So I think maybe that was
one made the other, yeah.
Right. So I think that was kind of what Michael was getting at with that.
Okay, I actually get that word.
But I do think though that like it's just kind of a mess, like because we're at the fourth book, and I think we obviously have a lot more to read, and we have a lot more revelations. And that, you know what, I want to give this book some more credit because, like, at least I like that there was some revelation happening here in this book where there were some twists.
The story forward.
There were some twists, like there was some kind of like, oh wow, I wasn't expecting that at all. Like, and even though some of it was predictable, like like Calidus like not really dying, I was just kind of like, wow, like. Yeah, I mean, there is a whole fourth book, so. Right. But
Michael super dying.
Yeah, so that was, I mean, but it was funny because, like, the predictability of Calidus not dying kind of made it unpredictable that Michael would. So that was weird.
Do you think that, because, like, at one point, Lycos, like, dies after being stabbed by Makin. What'd you say? Right.
No, I'm laughing. And then, good. Yeah.
Oh yeah. He meets up with Lycos. He meets up with Calidus, in like the spirit world. Again, my word, spirit world, but wherever they live.
Sovngarde.
Yeah. And he's like about to go over like the river Styx essentially. And Lycos is like, or Calidus is like, but do you like wanna come back? I'm not sure how Calidus has the power over life and death, because he basically brings him back to life. Yeah. And then later on,
the same thing
dies.
Happens. Yeah. Yeah.
And he is given the opportunity to come back. And was it Makin who dies? Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Makin,
because he's like, oh, like I just love this Fiddle person like so much.
Yeah, he's like, I have to come back for two people that I hate, one people or person I love. Yeah, that was a good line. Actually,
that's a pretty badass line. Yeah, I was just gonna say.
Yeah, that's pretty. And I kind of thought that was like the balancing of the universe, that like Michael got to bring somebody back because Calidus did it. Is that what your take was?
Well, I mean, like my take was like, why even have them die? Like, you know what I mean? Right. Like, I mean, like, I know it's cool. Like, but like, it seems like
very plot armory, like cheating.
I mean, it's cool at least, right? So it's like, at least it's not just somebody not dying of a wound, because there's like different levels of plot armor. Like Harry going to fucking like Matrix platform 9 3/4 to talk to Dumbledore. Like, yeah, like it's kind of lame, but it's like at least a spell just like didn't work or something. You know what I mean? I think that there's certain levels where it's like we can play around with it a little bit, and it's like I don't want this character to die, but like we'll kind of like do something that adds not only to the lore, but also like these character intentions in the world and stuff like that. So it's fine.
Right. He did something. He gets a boon from the all powerful one.
I do think that it is just kind of like this is me putting on like my real critical pants, but I do feel like a lot of the stuff that happens in these books is just kind of like us getting unnecessarily sidetracked,
like Evness.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, I get Evness to an extent. I think Evness should have died like at the end of Malice or like the beginning of Valor or something. You know what I mean? Like, and that's just my opinion, but like it did serve a little bit of a purpose in the first book, which I still like Malice more than all of these personally. It's
totally in the betrayal and like getting the Thayers to open
and like
the
his
gates.
wife and stuff. Like Evness was actually pretty interesting for a little while, but I think that he kind of overstayed his welcome in this series.
Way
and, like,
overstayed.
I think Idana and Camlin and them like splitting off and stuff and all of that shit that was going on. Like I just don't really see the point of any of it. Like
Veratus killing his own dad didn't need to happen.
Yeah, like I mean, a lot of this is just kind of like it's not bad. It's not bad. Like, and I want to reiterate something else. Like, none of this is badly written. No. By the way, like I don't mind reading all. Like Gwynn is a perfectly capable writer. Like there's no parts of this where I'm just like, what a horrible sentence. Like I don't know what the hell any of those. Like no, it's fine.
Right, just 14 books at the same time.
But yeah, exactly. So it's like I like thinking about how Camlin's feeling to an extent. Like what's taking up more space in my brain is like, why are they over here? Like I understand there was like a reason for it at the end of Valor, but like I don't know.
Well, they ran to Drassel because one of the Starstone treasures is there.
Well, I understand why they went to Drassel, but Idana and Camlin and them did not go to Drassel. They went back to Ardent.
Right, to the swamp to meet up with rebels.
I mean, I guess I understand that like Idana wants her throne back and stuff, but it's like, why do you go with Corbin? Like, you get the throne back later. Like, this is like a war of gods and stuff. Like, what is Idana being back on the throne of Arden gonna do? Like, everyone's dead. Like, what army exists there that she'd be able to like fight up against Rin, who has like 5 countries under her belt right now? Like, what is totally this? Like, what's going on?
She's even
here?
betrayed by one of Penathrin's men who tries to kill her. It's like a full side thing that like
geez, what a mess.
Gets like betrayed, and he's like, well, if I kill you, then I can take your whole army, and then like I'm leading, and I'll still fight for like the same side, but now I want to lead. It's like, why is this even happening? Like, it doesn't change anything at all. There's just too much. And then Lycos with Alcyon's wife, and there's just all these weird little like side rabbit trails, and I'm like, I'm just kind of confused now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm impressed. I'm impressed that this was like. I mean, I'm impressed. I'm impressed because obviously a lot of people do really like this. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's not just badly put together, because obviously a lot of people really resonated with, like from some of the reviews that I've read, people are like, this is like the best book series I've ever read in my life. And it's like, damn, like that's really awesome that you feel that. I'm happy you found something like that, but like, it's not one of my favorites for sure because of all these things. But I mean, it just goes to show that like some stuff just doesn't stick to you, and like, for some reason, for a lot of reasons, like this one just didn't really stick to me. But I am still pretty excited to read the 4th book and have this series under my belt and stuff, and just kind of move on from it and read more John Gwynn. But I don't know, man. I don't know about this one. Like I'm getting kind of like Lycanius, like dude. like I because with Lycanius, by the way, apparently that new book by James Islington, The Will of the Many, is like amazing.
Dude, well, I can't listen to other people anymore, man.
I know, it's funny. Yeah, but for real. But with Lycanius, I had a lot of the same issues where it was just like, the moment to moment kind of things that were happening were pretty cool. There are some epic fights in Lycanius.
It's like real good.
There's like one scene in Lycanius from I think it's the beginning of the 3rd book that will be etched into my brain forever because it was such an epic fight scene. They're just like flying around like the ruins of like this ancient. It is so cool, and like the sun is like red. Battles. But it was so awesome. But like also
that story was wild.
I never felt immersed with Lycanius. Like I never felt the sense of place, and that's kind of just like what I'm feeling here. Yeah. I think maybe that's just the kind of reader I am, where it's like, that's why I like the Wheel of Time so much. Like, you got like Tar Valon, and you've got like the Wastes, and you've got, I mean, it's still this.
Well, I mean, it's like a 9 book.
I'm not singing Wheel of Time's full praises here, because like there are a lot of sidetracks with Wheel of Time too, where it's like where they don't even resolve or like go anywhere or
like
anything.
4 books
like,
worth.
Yeah, there's like a lot of like whole storylines where it's just like, what are we talking about right now? Like this, but there is, for me personally, and that's what it is. Like it really comes down to personal taste. I mean, like a lot of the reasons that I've given and that you've given for being a little bit like underwhelmed with some keywords, some aspects of this series are reasons why other people like it so much. You know what I mean? Like I think that people are able to really kind of like latch on to a story like Corbin's, or
yeah, if you're trying to sink your teeth in.
Yeah, but like for me, I don't know. I don't
know. I got one more here, and then you can hit me with one here, but then we'll wrap her up pretty quick here. I am very excited to read and figure out how this all ends. Sidebar to our sidebar. I just really hope that we don't get Michael being like, it's all fake, I made it up. And then us being like, wow, so this is all for nothing. And then at the end, it's actually like, fooled you, Michael. Elion's like, gotcha. I was there the whole time directing everything. It's like, why did you even, again, throw that in there?
I think there's like a 65% chance that's actually going to happen.
I know. Okay, so what did you think of the whole Brenna falling victim to the book? So there's like a big chunk where like Brenna, who has the Earth book that Evnus originally had, that Vaughn took when he ran out of the castle. Brenna takes it from him, using it to teach herself. And the book is like addictive and kind of corrupts you, kind of like the One Ring. I didn't really like that Cohen has to like talk to her about it and is like, hey, I think this book is kind of like taking you over and you've been kind of mean, like meaner than normal, and been cut off. It's kind of like if Gandalf fell to the One Ring and Frodo had to be like, no, Gandalf. But like, I don't know. It just kind of made her weaker and of a character.
I don't know. I didn't really mind it because I don't think Brenna was ever set up as like this kind of like Gandalf type character. I think in the first book it seemed like maybe, but I think as it went on, she was much more of like a kind of just like a grumpy, like very well educated teacher figure, but not really like an all-powerful, like uncorruptible kind of.
Yeah.
I don't know. I kind of liked it, honestly.
Maybe
like,
I only mean is like she's the magical leader.
I don't know. I kind of dug it because
really okay.
I don't know. It just gave more depth to not only Brenna but also to Gwynne too, because she was dealing with that.
I don't know. More depth would have been to hold stalwart, and not fall victim. I feel like. Though she is open to Cohen's approach when Cohen.
That's just like your opinion, man.
Yeah, you're right. And I will say, that she is open to Cohen being like, hey, this is becoming a problem. And she's like, okay, let's look at it together. And then that path is kind of ended.
Think about it from this point of view, because like initially I did have a little bit of an eye roll moment where I was like, oh, Cohen's going to learn magic now from Brenna, because like neither of them have anything to do. But I mean, at least Gwynn like took it somewhere, and maybe it still has a little ways to go too, because again, we do have another 700-page book ahead of us, and there's so much room for more of that guy. So yeah, I didn't mind it.
One thing I really do enjoy that I think is rather well done, and is kind of reminiscent of Michael Sullivan.
Oh yeah,
where Michael Sullivan in one of his books, like the age books, where it's like,
I haven't read those. Oh yeah, because you haven't read Rhyria and I haven't read the Age of whatever books.
And I've been told I really need to read Rhyria by you many times. He has like
Legends of the First Empire. Is that what that series is called?
I think so. I have them right here. One sec. Yep. Legends of the First Empire.
Man, Steel totally Trap right. Evan over here.
Well, it's funny because he'll like attribute, he has a kind of like hunter-gatherer society, like invent the wheel and like really kind of industrialize almost, and like go from like hunting and gathering to like settling down and farming. And it's kind of cool to see the transition in one way, but it's also kind of like funny that he invents the wheel, in his book. Well, Gwynn does the same thing multiple times. Like, right, we have Nether who invents the shield wall, and it's like John Gwynn like kind of like setting himself up to be like, look at how good I am, and like invent something that like already exists in the world. And then he also has like apparently you're kind of surprised when it happens because you're like, oh, apparently like it's like isn't a thing in their world. Like at one point someone gets the idea of like, hey, we should train our soldiers in to use arrows, because like I think it would be like a really good way to kill him, and like we're already not using honor in battle with like the shield wall, so we should like, and then of course it's wildly effective, but it's like, were they not doing that in the battles before? Like, how do they not think like this thing that we use to kill deer could also be devastating in battle as well? Like, it was just like, okay, sure.
I think it was Gwynn tried to stress pretty early on the kind of like dynamic of battle in this series before,
and like the lack thereof.
I mean, there was a dynamic but there wasn't much of a it wasn't I think the way that he actually described it was like people running around swinging swords at each other like a big open
Totally.
field.
It devolves into little one-on-one battles.
Yeah. Which I mean, that was how we fought to a certain extent. So I mean, it's like he's just capturing that moment in time. I think maybe the reason it feels a little lopsided is because other technology in the world has advanced to a certain point, and we probably figured out a sort of phalanx like shield wall type thing a lot earlier on than like we figured out some of the other inventions that are present in this world.
And if like the bow and arrow wasn't invented for battles, it was certainly immediately picked up and used for them, you know?
Yeah, like it was probably, I bet like a day went by where they were like, this is really useful for hunting food. Oh my God, we can kill each other with this shit.
Exactly.
Like pretty much like an hour after they invented the bow and arrow.
Can you imagine like a whole army? We could blacken the sky.
Honestly, we probably made the bow and arrow to kill people and then figured out we could kill pigs with it.
Straight up, like, dude. Yeah. Like for sure. Who are we kidding?
That was definitely the way it went.
Like I'm not surprised that we didn't start off like only having like horses do farming. Then before we know it, we're having cavalry and someone has the great idea, you know?
I think in 2001, A Space Odyssey, it is the other way around though, where like the monkeys, or they like figure out how to kill something and then they meet and then there's like this battle and then they kill each other. I think it is that way around, but that doesn't matter.
An iconic movie.
All right. So my last question is, what do you think is going to happen in book 4? Let's do a quick prediction and then wrap it up.
Okay, let's do it.
How do you think this series is going to end?
How do I think this? Okay, so I think lots of people are going to die. I think we got a taste of, because we've had some plot armor so far. He has definitely been shown his willingness to kill people, but he kind of like brings them back, or he kind of like is a slippery little fish when it comes to killing.
Seems like plot armor on the side of the baddies.
Yeah. I think all the baddies are pretty much going to die. I think Veratus is going to be a liver. He's going to live through this. Him and Cohen are going to get together for sure.
Totally.
Corbin is going to... Corbin, I'm unclear as to whether or not Corbin will live in the end. He might have to sacrifice himself. I think both McKean and Fidelay will sacrifice themselves epically.
Oh, interesting.
I think that... Man, I don't want to be right as far as like Elion showing up and being like, gotcha, it was me the whole time. You were right. Like Michael, or like, I think that we will learn that a part of Calidus was kind of right in his spiel to Nether. Like he's going to be like the yin yang or something, and he was a force that like had to be created to like alter, like there was so much good in the world, like he was a product of like of balance or something. And I think that Elion will show up in some cryptic way at the end and be like, you were in my hands the whole time, sort of thing.
We just let thousands of people die horribly. Like,
a lesson that we had to like release the Katashimon to go eat children in order to learn. And then one epic huge battle, of course, at the end that will be like the last third of the book.
Obviously, yeah.
What do you think is going to happen?
All right, so I think Corbin and Corlin are going to get together. Corbin's going to live. Corbin's totally going to live through this. I think Veratus will live through this. I think Fidelay and McKean will live through this.
Oh, you think they're both going to live, huh?
Yeah, I think they'll have a kid. They'll have some kind of kid who will take... I think Nether will die for sure.
Dude, Fidelay is Nether's mom. They're not going to have a kid. She's like well past.
Maybe, but I think they'll rule and like adopt like Halion or Halion.
Okay.
Whatever that dude's the little kid's name.
Yeah.
That's why that kid had chapters. I think he'll end up ruling something, which I don't know.
I hated his chapters.
They were really boring.
So boring.
Yeah. I think I don't know what's gonna happen with like the gods and stuff. With like Calidus. I think Calidus will probably die for good, but I think that there's some kind of misunderstanding that everybody has on the real nature of both Elion and Azeroth.
Totally.
I think.
Well, I don't know about Azeroth.
I don't know, man. Like because
met him.
I think it could be along the lines of what you're saying, where like Elion comes down and he's like, "No, like Azeroth is this necessary evil."
Calidus is Elion.
I don't think Calidus.
I don't think he's right. Yeah, no, he's not.
Like we said before, like I think it would be pretty interesting if one of the characters in the Banished Lands was like Alcyon or something. Maybe Alcyon.
Oh, interesting.
Because like maybe Elion
has
been. Well, I just like the idea that like Elion's been here like this whole time, but because of like the nature of like this conflict and Azeroth himself can't like present himself You know what I mean? But he has
maybe Storm.
Maybe it's Gar, because Gar's been around this whole time.
Gar has been around this whole time.
Whoa, what if it's Gar? Because no, I don't know. Because Gar knows Storm.
Maybe Gar has like a dad.
Yeah, no, it's true.
I think he might be Storm. Maybe it's Shield. I feel Shield kind of is like not that great of a character. He like this horse is like so great, but not really around him all the time. Yeah. And like,
it'd be cool if the horse could talk, because like the birds can talk. Why can't any of the other animals as well? Like,
okay, worst conversations in this entire book will end here.
Yeah.
Two more complaints. Sorry guys, I know this was a complaining one, but
it's kind of a downer episode. Everybody, sorry. Like, we're about to do Dark Age too, and that's a total downer book.
But I'm gonna revel in that. So there was entire conversations in giant talk that I don't know that language of. And then like it was like way too much giant talk. Sometimes I would just be like, wow, I'm like, it's still going on. And then it would never get explained to us. I'd be like, okay. And then I thought the crows, another character growth where like we go from like this person is one thing in one book and the next book they're like this totally different thing. The crows are like really, really smart parrots, magical parrots. In this book, they're having full conversations. They're like bantering. And they're coming out of the woodwork. Everybody's got a crow. They're literally like teaching things like, well, I had to learn about this thing from the crow. It's just like, that was too silly. I don't need a crow character to be like a main, you know?
Yeah, we should have like other talking animals. Like where are the worms, by the way? Like where are all these like big giant snakes and stuff? Like there should be like way more. I know there's it's
a few dragons.
More though. More.
Oh yeah.
More. Like, I'm not saying that's not in here, but
no, I want more dragons too. Yeah, that's
lots
more.
More.
Always good.
Like, why introduce that stuff and then like use it sparingly? It's not an exclamation point. Like, do it more. Like, you're writing a fucking fantasy book, dude. Like, let's everybody's riding dragons. Like,
let's fight some dragons. Yeah, and if there's the only one,
let's have everyone on one side. Yeah, let's have like everyone on one side on a dragon and everyone on the other side on dragons, and have them all fight each other. Like, I don't.
Yeah, like I would like to see bear charging bear a dragon. Like be awesome.
No, that
give one thing to John Gwynn. We'll end on a positive note. His ability to set up battles and just slay people together in an awesome grisly, as I said in previous episodes, battlegasm is unprecedented.
Yeah, so we're just gonna kind of wrap this up a little bit here. I'm not really sure at all what to expect from the next book. I mean, I've made some predictions that are very predictable, but I mean, I was surprised a couple times during this and might get surprised again in the next book. But yeah, like I said, no, I'm trying to be as honest as I can with my following and stuff, and I don't want to like fake it on here for all of you, and I think you all deserve to know when we're not like crazy into something, and this is just one of those times where it's just like, I don't know, not really my thing, but we'll finish it and we'll keep talking about it. And if this is one of your favorite series, I hope that this episode was entertaining at least for you. And if you're in your car kind of like raging at us right now because you're like, did they even read the fucking thing? It's like, oh my god, well,
send me an email as to why. I'd honestly like to know, because I respect a lot of our listeners' opinions. A lot of you, I'm just kidding, but like I respect every reader's book opinion, but I would truly like to know why some people think it's so good, because there's just a lot, like I said, it's got a lot of great elements, but they don't, the actual execution is just a little off in my mind, and it kind of it's missing a few elements, and I won't belabor the points again.
If there's any parts of this conversation that you take issue with and you think that Chad and I are super wrong about, definitely hit us up in the Discord or send us an email, and just so that we have that open line of communication. And also I would like to be corrected about stuff if I'm wrong about it, because it'll make reading the next book better. So totally. But that's just kind of a byproduct of being like not being super interested in something, is that I just kind of become less interested in it. I stop really paying attention to a lot of the minutiae, and the minutiae is really important. So,
and typically what happens is I have you, and you see things a little bit differently enough. We cross over enough in our Venn diagrams that we make good reading buddies, but we always differ a little bit, and you can like pull me out of the doldrums if I get stuck in them. But I think on this one, we're like perfectly aligned in like what we like and don't like, and we're just compounding each other, which is fine.
It's all good. We got one more of these, and then we're going to move on to Scholomance by Naomi Novik, and then after Red Rising, we're moving on to Covenant of Steel by Anthony Ryan. We're doing Binti by Nnedi Okorafor, and then, folks, friends, comrades, we're doing Malazan, Book of the Fallen, and we're also doing Throne of Glass by Sarah.
And we're doing a lot of books with Fallen in the name.
So many Fallens. But yeah, everybody, love you so much. Thank you for listening to Chad and I kind of rip this apart. We appreciate your patience, and we appreciate your taste too. We appreciate how much you love stuff. So I'm going to go. Hopefully all of you have an excellent rest of your day. And of course, happy reading.
Bye, everybody.